Yes, hello. I have a topic that I'm very curious to ask about. It's human orgasm. I want you to talk about orgasm. And in particular, I've noticed three different levels of orgasm. There is a level that most men would settle for, which is a physiological ejaculation. There is a deeper level, which is where women would more naturally have to reach, which is a physiological experience. And then the third level is a cosmic experience. So I want you to explain orgasm, and it seems to have, for me, these three different levels.
We would say it's even more expanded than that. There's so many different types of orgasms. So, yes, there are different uh, thresholds, you could say. And yes, there's the typical orgasm. And then there is the expanded orgasm. You describe this as a female orgasm. And we would agree that, yes, it is in some ways easier for females to achieve that deeper level of orgasm. And certainly the cosmic orgasm is also a threshold that you can reach. And the idea is that the longer that you can maintain a heightened state of sexual arousal without moving towards orgasm and especially towards ejaculation, the more intense the orgasm becomes when it occurs. It's like you are building and building energy of pleasure and arousal and stimulation. And the longer you can maintain it without having, yes, ejaculation, the bigger that release of energy becomes. Now, there's a couple particular ways to expand this energy and make it, in some senses, more cosmic. This would involve spreading the energy. So it is spreading that orgasmic energy or that sexual energy from the genital region to other parts of the body. So, say, for example, you are experiencing a high level of arousal, and for this to reach out even deeper state, you would then pause in the genital stimulation and explore expanding the sensation to touch in other parts of the body, stroking, caressing, sucking, or however you wish to do it, other parts of the body, so that this intense sensation can also be experienced in more zones. And then when there's a release of energy, this orgasmic energy can move through the full body. Now, there are also ways similar to how you have done it, using ideas like hypnosis and meditation to expand the intensity of the sensations, to connect with the subtle body and experience these sensations in deeper ways. Sometimes this can be done even using visualization to imagine yourself to be the opposite gender or a different gender. And this can also connect to more subtle astral bodies, wherein you can also experience those different levels of sensation and hidden levels of yourself. This can also lead to what you've described as the cosmic orgasm. But again, as we've said, this certain orgasm can also be experienced in a tantric way, as some describe it, by allowing arousal to build, then stopping when you're near the edge and expanding the sensations through other parts of the body. Now, whether you do this through touching other parts of the body or through visualizing and feeling other parts of your body and sending the energy from your genitals into those parts of your body, doesn't really matter. In order for this to work, you also have to go past psychological levels of resistance. Like, if you are afraid of or resisting pleasure, you have to surrender more to it. you also have to go past the resistance that is the one that is rushing you and pushing you towards orgasm. This is especially difficult for males who might otherwise push themselves to climax. You have to learn how to ride the edge and take breaks. Things like eye gazing, synchronized breathing, and meditative postures can aid in this process of allowing you to slow down so that you can continue to raise the threshold.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us what is orgasm? What's going on?
There's a deep release of the sexual energy that creates waves of pleasure, a rush of different hormones through the body. These are relieving, these are relaxing, these are also building intense connection through hormones like oxytocin and through the soul to soul link that is taking place between the beings involved. And yes, afterwards, there is generally that deep relaxing energy. This is also connected to a hormone that allows the body to come into rest. This period afterwards is a phase for deep connection between those involved, and also be used as such through cuddles, through connection, through eye contact. And also the moment of orgasm is one that makes you very we would say open to suggestion and more neuroplastic, more in the sense programmable. And so this is why people will often pick up the sorts of demeanors and expressions they see in pornography if they consume that. Because when you have an orgasm, the energy and information around you is stored deeper in the subconscious. So you have to consciously work with this. For example, affirming love, care, and tenderness during orgasm allows these energies to influence your being even more. Though this is also connecting then with the idea of sex magic, that you can use orgasm to manifest intentions and cast, in a sense, spells. And it's as simple as focusing your thoughts and your intentions in the moment of orgasm. Some do this with affirmations, speaking or thinking what they would like to create in their lives. Some do it with sigils that are already infused with that intention, and they visualize the sigils. Some do it in their own ways, but the idea is simply bringing your intention into that moment and recognizing that you are suggestible, easy to influence, easy to impress with your intentions at that time. So you may use it in that special way. And yes, when you are in this extreme peak state of arousal, of sensation, you are in some senses in a deeper connection to the source, yet simultaneously, they've called the orgasm a little death, as there's this intense rush followed by an intense release. And many find that sensation and touch in the genitals after orgasm is unpleasant. There's a vast switch that switched in another direction. And for some, this is a bit imbalancing until they learn how to connect with it in the right way. And so we would say that yes, sexuality is best explored as you can allow yourselves to control the orgasm to an extent, to synchronize it so that you have that peak together and that wave of relaxation together, and use that relaxation to build a deeper bond, and use sexuality as a part of a creative exploration, an act of co-creation with your partner or partners.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering why. Why do orgasms exist? I mean, there's sort of biological explanation or a creation explanation, a source of all that is explanation. Why do they exist? Why do we have them?
Well, on a metaphysical level, we would say this is the most visceral, primal expression of oneness between souls that you may experience. And again, oneness is the core truth. You are one with all that is. And this oneness is bliss and this is love. And so, in order for beings to realize this, there must be a deep act of love between them. And so, when you commune and come together as one through sexuality, this is a parallel between the soul realizing its oneness with source, and spiritual experiences in a very different way will bring about similar rushes of pleasure through the body and the being. On a more biological level, of course, this is there for your survival, and the differing components of attraction are what guarantee the best outcomes. For example, you are generally not as attracted to people who have similar DNA to you, as this is what will allow for there to be great diversity within the genetic pool.
Right. So that's human orgasm. What about in your species, in your planet? Do you have similar experience?
As souls come together in our reality, there is a deep expanse of pleasure. We don't necessarily commune in the same way physically, sexually anymore, but there's sort of soul merge experiences where we allow each other to deeply see into each other and to bond and to connect. There is some touch and many levels of expression involved. And for us, it is even deeper and more powerful than your human sexuality, though it is very different. And yes, sometimes there can be these sorts of interactions that precede the inoculation of new souls into this reality, our reality, yes, though it is not exactly the same as how human sexuality takes place.
Mm-hmm. As you're talking of your own species, I'm reminded of various accounts of the reptilian species who are very telepathic, and the experience that I've heard, it can be quite intrusive because they merge straight into um, your telepathy and intrude in a way. And it's as I've heard. I mean, I wouldn't know. As I've heard, it's like a cultural way for reptilians is to open up and communicate, but it's not sexual. It's just an openness to telepathy. Is this true?
Yes, but this is the truth between any sort of interaction with extraterrestrials that humans can have in the same way telepathically. Now, there has to be a resonance for this to work. There has to, you have to be the right candidate, if that makes sense. So, in this case, with the reptilian beings, in order for a human to be merged with a reptilian, or to be hijacked by, or to be possessed by, or whatever word you would like to use, that human has to be, in some senses, already reptilian in their thought process. Reptilians are predatory, they are fear based, and therefore they need a host who is predominantly fear based. They need a host that thinks like them so that they can find an entry point. Just as much, in order for this phenomena of channeling to take place, a soul must be aligned with the Pleiadian frequency. They must be aligned with similar attitudes of service. They must be love based in their thought processes. They must be engaged with the same ways of seeing the world and acting in the world that are obviously not the same as ours because we live in a different dimension, but have an energetic resonance. And so, yes, humans can be hijacked by reptilians, but only humans who are already a bit reptilian in their resonance are candidates for that.
Okay. Coming back to the orgasm,
Now, I want to interject a bit and say it can actually happen in sexuality in very rare cases that somebody is hijacked in that moment because the sexuality is giving rise to their inner self. And it has happened in both a positive and in a negative direction. For example, through deep soul communion, people have also just as much felt connected to their Pleiadian counterparts through that experience. But it has also happened that people have channeled a reptilian frequency during the sexual act. Because it was connected, we thought we would bring that up, but yes, go on.
This is a vast topic. I'm surprised how vast it is. But I wanted to ask about breathing because breathing seems to help the process. Taking in oxygen seems to be a way of. Well, what's the effect of the deeper breathing on orgasm?
Breathing is regulating your nervous system, yes? It's really a better way of putting that is that deep breathing can slow down your nervous system, and shallow breathing can accelerate it, can activate, yes, the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is also connected with sexuality and orgasm. And so when you are engaging in a deep and slow breath, this affects the parasympathetic nervous system, which counteracts the action of the sympathetic nervous system. Thus, it delays the orgasm. It allows you to stay in that state of arousal longer. It also just as much brings you to focus on your body and in your body, making you more aware, making you more aware of where there is sensation, where you need to slow down, where you can focus in your body to expand the sensation, for example. Just as much in the reverse, oftentimes getting near the moment of orgasm, people begin to breathe shallowly and quickly. They might even emulate a breath similar to what is called the breath of fire in yogic practices. And this is the acceleration of the nervous system, bringing you into that moment of orgasm. And this can also be done to intensify the orgasm intentionally. So, yes, slow, deep breathing prolongs the action and prolongs the sexual act. Shallow, quick breathing accelerates it and brings you closer to orgasm. And also, if you're already past the point of no return, it accelerates and intensifies, rather, that orgasm.
There's also a sense that with breathing you can move energy. For example, there's an ancient technique, I think it's from China, where as you breathe in, you bring energy up the back of your spine, over the top of your head, and as you breathe out, it goes down the front. And I find that with the tension, putting your intention and breathing together, you can move energy throughout the body.
Correct. Naturally, this happens with your inhalation and exhalation on its own, though you have the power to accentuate and accelerate that process by focusing on the way the energy moves in connection with your breath. So, yes, doing that natural process of inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front will make the flow of energy that naturally moves in that cycle even stronger. But just as much, say, for example, you're having pain in your elbow, you can breathe into the pain in your elbow, sending waves of energy back and forth from that area. So, yes, there is a natural current that, as you said, goes up the back, down the front. But there's also a way that you can use intention to create microcurrents in the moment.
Yes. My final question on orgasm is the link with sneezing. Seems that people who repress their sneezes may possibly repress their orgasms. And I've heard that people who sneeze loudly and uncontrollably have more intense experiences of orgasm. What do you say about this?
Yes, this is true. There is a sort of restraint of the nervous system that is involved in suppressing sneezes. So if you are holding them back constantly, you're also holding back the process of release. And so therefore, it is sometimes dampening the flow of energy in the sexual act as well.
Great. Well, this has been a great explanation of many, many things. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have any final comments or if we're complete.
One final thing we would say is that you may as well focus on parts of your body, perhaps a chakra or perhaps a physical part of your body during intimacy or sexuality, and focus your breath there, send your energy there, and focus touch and awareness there in such a way that you can orgasm through any part of your body beyond your genitals. And this can actually be a deep and powerful healing way to allow energy to release, especially if you know there's an energetic blockage in this area.
On the spaceship of Babel, we are gliding through the stars on a 5-year mission beyond Jupiter and Mars, a celestial encounter on a future Noah's Ark, and you won't hear us coming if you whisper in the dark. There's an Ewok close behind me as we try to disembark here, Obi-Wan Kenobi as we whisper in the dark.